Good morning once again to everyone. Right, today we continue with our study on perception, sanya. Today we're on page 110. Any questions on perception before we go on? Anything to ask? Right, so perception is part of the five aggregates. Just as by way of recap. Five aggregates. Number one, you have form. Form is, if you like, early Buddhist psychological term for the conscious body. And this word conscious is very important. We're not talking about dead body, we're talking about conscious body. And because we have body, which are made out of the four elements, solid aspects, liquid aspects, heat aspects, and wind or motion aspects, we feel. The body is conscious, there are physical elements, so we feel. The question now is, how do we feel? When feeling means you either respond to liking something, not liking something, or not caring about it. That is Vedana. We did this in the second part of our study. This kind of feeling is also a conditioned reaction. In many ways, if you are not awake, then everything is conditioned. If you have to blame anything in life, don't blame anyone, blame it on conditions. We have problems because of conditions. The wrong conditions we like. But in the sense there are no wrong conditions, all conditions are right conditions in the sense. Or if you like, there are all conditions are wrong conditions if you think in terms of suffering. Conditions are just when the right things are there and the results come. And if your mind is negative, then this pain will come to you. If your mind is positive, then you don't experience the pain like other people would. So from there you get a very good hint, that pain may be natural, but suffering is optional. It's a very important line to remember. There's little short mantras, which are helpful us to look deeper into the Dharma. They're like skeleton keys, they open the Dharma doors. Pain is natural, suffering is optional. You can reflect on that. And you find actually we can choose not to suffer. What I'm saying, you can't stop pain from arising, but you can choose not to suffer. Meaning, you understand the body is such that you get stomach ache, you get body pains, the body decay, things like that. But you say, well, that's part of life. So you can still be happy. I mean, in all this, human lives, so many millennia passed through, you videotape them, let's say, if it's possible. Then you play them at high speed, and you find actually our lives are very short, just a few moments of it. But within those short moments, we do a lot of things. We can do a lot of great things. There are moments, opportunities for awakening. Right? So feelings arise through what we call past experiences. So these feelings arise from our perception of the past. Okay? So sanya, perception. So that becomes the third aggregate. Okay? Sanya is sometimes translated as recognition. A kind of recall, a kind of memory. Consciousness, in that case, would be translated as cognition. Sanya is recognition. So we are conscious of something. So I'm jumping to the fifth aggregate now. The five senses with the mind as a sixth sense, we experience raw data. Sound, smell, taste, touch, thoughts. They are like ongoing things. So we make use of this data, we interpret them. If we just process those data like a computer, we probably won't have any problem. The problem, we don't do that. We interpret this data. Interpret means what? I like this, I don't like this, I don't care about this. So, how do we do this? This is when we come to the fourth aggregate, formation, sankhara. Sankhara, in simple terms, would be karma. That's why some translators translate as karma formations. In other words, I see something beautiful, I say very nice. Like when you say very nice and I smile at it, even the Buddha does that, no problem. In a sense, no no karmic consequence if you are awakened. Even if you are unawakened, whatever consequence will be positive. You say something beautiful, you look at it, and you are at peace with yourself. And you see something ugly, you just think, this is not very nice, and just leave it at that. No hatred arises. But if you say, oh, this is ugly, I don't like it, I hate it, then you switch from just perceiving into forming karma. That's one way of looking at it. So here is where, when you desire something, you say, wow, this is nice, I want it, the desire of wanting to appropriate it arises, it becomes sankhara. Karma is formed. And what is this thing that forms this karma, or this sankhara? It is greed. Raga or lobha. And then, if you like something, because that liking is defined, these are the things that make me like this. So whatever is not this would make me dislike, hate something else, which is not this. So hatred arises when you do not get what you wish, it's different from what you aim for in life, things like that. So when you cultivate this idea of hate or disliking, that karma is created. In simple terms, every time you show a desire, you are likely to desire again. If you show hate or anger, you are likely to show it again. So that's how this prapancha works also, which we'll talk about later. In other words, how our minds proliferate, our thoughts explode, many thoughts. And the funny part is this, when something unfamiliar arises to us, that means we have not experienced it in the past, so we can't say pleasant or unpleasant. So you can't say I like it or I don't like it, it's neutral. Now the funny thing is this, if you do not recognize this and you make a habit of not recognizing it, then you reinforce ignorance. So you have the three roots there, greed, hatred, delusion, or you go deeper into your unconscious, you have lust, this dislike or ill will, and ignorance, right? The three roots. So these three roots, the three ways we respond to feelings are interconnected. They work together, hand in glove. So if we do not recognize something neutral, inverted commas, it means neither nor pleasant nor painful, something neither we dislike nor like, then we reinforce our ignorance. So here what the Buddha is saying, in simple terms, intelligence arises in the ability to recognize even this neutral state, that they are impermanent. This is interesting because if you go deeper, reflect this teaching deeper, the idea of understanding impermanence is a very great doorway to intelligence. If you are able to see intelligence, you're able to see impermanence as a pattern in life, it will provide you the opportunity to become intelligent. Intelligent in the sense that you see conditions in life. And if you understand conditions, then you are able to solve problems. So we go down to a very basic way of talking actually. How to solve problems, how to invent things, how to be creative. So my understanding is, if you are able to reflect on impermanence, you go deeper behind the screen of, behind the facade of virtual reality. You begin to see something more real behind that, and you're able to discover greater things in life. It is just like a man walks along the seashore and then he sees this well-worn old piece of dead tree trunk washed by the salt water over many years. So you've got this dead wood, as we call it, or tree wood. So if a poor man, uneducated man comes along, he sees it, he says, oh, very good, this is firewood. Then comes along carpenter, he says, oh, this is good wood, well seasoned, I can make great furniture from it. Then comes along an artist, he says, wow, this is beautiful piece of work. He will leave it as it is, maybe take it home and exhibit in some hall in Singapore and make some money from it. Of course, if a Buddhist meditator comes along and says, this is wood, it's only earth element, something like that. So it depends on how you train your mind. There are things that you have to get it in your way. Okay? Whatever it is, we see it as something, we see it as it is. There is no beauty or ugliness there. The world is neutral. But when you see it that way, joy arises in you. You feel peaceful. Even if it were a dead dog, you see it's permanent. It's a festering body. There is peace in you. So the source of peace is not outside there, it's inside you. It's how you look at things. Right? So it's how we can create positive karma in our minds. So that is sankhara. And the last one, of course, consciousness. Consciousness is raw data, experience of raw data through our senses. And this is something we talked about in our last lesson. In fact, this is a double volume, so it's quite a lot of things to talk about. But this is the how to understand life itself. All right, so when you see perception, what do you really see? You see change. Number one, what you see is things are changing. Number two, we often see things which are not there. And our mind uses ideas so that we can make sense of what's going on. Here we have this very interesting excerpt from a linguist, someone called Gregory Bateson. He wrote a book called Minds and Nature in 1979. On page 31, he says that whatever information we receive, in other words, perception operates on differences. All that we can know are difference. In other words, we will only notice things when they change. You want to sit very quietly here, you won't know what I'm doing. I'm just being still. Language also, you find language, the words change, then it makes sense. Look at this excerpt. He writes something very simple. He talks about what is really a switch, right? What we understand as a switch, what is it? Page 110, at the bottom. A simple electric switch. The switch considered as a part of an electric circuit does not exist when it is in the on position. From the point of view of the circuit, it is not different from the conducting wire which leads to it and the wire which leads away from it. It is merely more conductor. In other words, conduct electricity. Conversely, but similarly, when the switch is off, it does not exist from the point of view of the circuit. It is nothing but a gap between two conductors, which themselves exist only as conductors when the switch is on. In other words, the switch is not except at the moment of its change of setting. And the concept switch has thus a special relation to time. When you say to time, it's permanent. It is related to the notion change rather than to the notion object. Notice how amazingly Buddhist, even Abhidharma, you like, this is the way this person talks. Right? So, of course, we like to say things like a switch is not a switch. Wow, this is great philosophy. But we don't really reflect the real meaning of it. A switch doesn't really exist. Nice things to say. But you don't reflect on it, it's just meaningless. So I put pride on this thing. It's pretty nice posters and pasted on your walls. But if you don't reflect on it, it's useless, You can bow it 100,000 times, 1,000,000 times with this poster, charming. Just a wasting your breath. The point is you've got to reflect on it. So here, this person is saying the switch is a process. The word switch, if you take it as a verb, is an action. Click. That microsecond, the exact 0.25 microsecond, click. That moment is a switch. It switches from off to on or on to off. Very dynamic, But you talk like that, it's very, very tedious, So you say switch on the wall, there's a switch, right? So do you understand this point? If not clear, I'll explain again. Yeah? So it's a process. So if you reflect on this and you apply it to other processes in our life, it's amazing, You begin to look deeper, this idea of impermanence in our life. Okay? So change is the rule of life in other words. And that's what we should notice. Otherwise, it's all virtual reality to us. So when you apply this to your mind, what does our mind do? Our mind, we experience things and then we record the experiences in our mind. For example, you learn something today, so it's recorded in your mind. It's amazing thing our minds can do. And it helps you to understand future narratives, future story. You go to another talk, you go, oh, okay, this is what this speaker is talking about, and things begin to connect. Assuming those speakers are intelligent and they tell you the right things, and you understand all those things. So what we are really living with are, one way of looking at it, are narrative stories we tell ourselves. Information we get, and then we make it into like a story. We relate them to things. For example, we say, oh, I was in this temple, names and such, I heard this thing, or I heard this from so and so. That's the story, right? Then we got to see the truth beyond the stories. We got to apply to our own lives. And from there, we begin to understand why our life is like that, how we can improve it. Okay, so perception becomes something more real, becomes wisdom, if you like. One way to deal with this kind of situation is to listen to stories of the Buddha. So when you look at the life of the Buddha, you begin to see how he saw things in his life. And in a sense, that the Buddha is telling you, he has gone through all those things that we are likely to experience, so that the next time we experience those things, we won't be cheated by them. We won't be terrified by them. We begin to understand them better. And these three things especially are the 3 Ds of life: decay, disease, death. So the Buddha is telling us, oh, I've seen all this, I've seen decay, I've seen disease, I've seen death. It's part of life. They are terrible things, yes, but we can get out of such states, or at least we don't have to be terrified by them. It tells us how to deal with these things. So, in other words, you'll notice even in the story of life of the Buddha, and there are 12 so-called 12 acts of the Buddha, and it's listed here on page 112. So in the life of the Buddha, it's a storytelling way of talking about human experience. So talking about the life of the Buddha is a way of telling us how to view the world, how to understand, and what is the world? That's the next thing we must ask ourselves. We must say world, but we never stop a while to ask ourselves, what is this, what is that? Very often in the suttas, you find the sutta will start off with a very simple question, what is, and then this question, what is world? What is perception, and so on. Right? In Buddhist psychology, it's a very clear-cut answer. This is the amazing thing about the suttas. If you go into the later, all those great philosophical teachings of the later schools, oh, they're beautiful language, yes, but useless. You can't really use them very much. On the other hand, if you look at the simple, humble suttas, the simplicity of the language is number one, very helpful to us. Number two, it is right to the point. Right to the point meaning, as far as language can go, that's the teaching. Next thing, you've got to reflect on them. For example, the Buddha says, okay, well, what is the all? The all is our world. Or what is the world? Two questions, same import, same meaning. What is the world? What is the all? A-L-L, all. Because the all is the world, this universe we live in. The answer, they are our 6 senses. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. 6 internal senses or 6 sense faculties. By the way, it's not just the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. It's the functioning eye. Okay, the eye must function. You can collect a dead man's eye, not counted. We're talking about the eye faculty. Okay. And then external sense objects, form, sound, smell, taste, touch, thoughts. They're regarded as external because they work with the sense objects, the sense faculty. And then the sense, respective sense consciousnesses. Eye consciousness, ear consciousness, and so on. So all these are the all. This is our world. I mean, this makes amazing sense, you know. All that we can really know are the six sense objects. The meaning of this is that we create our own world. Now, this does not mean that the physical world out there doesn't exist. This table does exist even when you go away. But reflect on this, very simple reflection. My fingers touch the table. Now ask yourself, did the table give the sensation, or did the sensation come from the tips of my fingers? I think you all know the answer, right? This table does not give any table feeling. It's your mind that gives you a table feeling. When I put my fingers here, and my fingertips, all that I feel actually is the earth element. But if I'm a Kalahari bushman, I wouldn't know what it is. If I touch, I wouldn't know it's stable. You know, I just say flat maybe, right? But we've been brought up, we went to preschool, we learn all these alphabets and we say table, so we know it's stable, right? In other words, the feeling from my fingertips, even that is not very exact. The feeling comes from my mind, and then from that I process it and say table. Of course, if my eyes are closed, I'm blindfolded and I'm being carried here, and then my fingers are gently put here, and you ask me, what is it? I won't know. I just say, oh, it's just a flat surface. I might think it's the floor. So we've got to have this perception of everything. Oh yeah, it's got a flat plane, it's a oblong thing, and then it's got legs, it's a table. Of course, we work this very fast, this processing. Right? So we have to understand this is how the mind processes things. The mind perceives it as a table through feeling. Right? So when we look at the life of the Buddha also, we've got to tell ourselves, what is this story trying to tell? That's why, you find some of the stories are amazing. Buddha being born, is able to talk, able to walk 7 steps, lotuses sprang forth. It's almost like the storytellers, they envision a virtual reality. So if it's a virtual reality, anything goes. You can tell anything, it's a story. And that's why in the book of Twos, in the Anguttara, the Buddha tells us, whenever you read the suttas, you must be aware there are 2 ways of reading the text. You must examine, ask yourself, what level is the Buddha addressing? Is the teaching what's called nitata? Nitata means the meaning has been drawn out, direct teaching. Or neyata, the meaning should be drawn out. Neya means should be drawn out. You must tease out the meaning. You must work out the meaning for yourself. For example, in the Dhammapada, the Buddha says, kill your father, kill your mother. Suddenly, wow, this amazing statement. Now, there's no way to translate these 2 lines except kill your father, kill your mother. Kill the king in the country, things like that, The Buddha is not talking on the ordinary level here. It's not biological father, biological mother. Here, the Buddha is using this term poetically to refer to craving and ignorance, for example. Even kill, the Buddha doesn't kill. Oh yes, once someone tried to trick the Buddha, would you kill someone? Of course, in Pali you don't have to say someone, you say, would you kill? Right? And the Buddha, to surprise me, say, yes, I do. This man got a shout, what, really? Say, yeah, but I will kill anger. So the Buddha has this humorous side to him. He will use the word you're using, but then he raises it to a different level. That happened to Angulimala. Right? So the shift of reality from the virtual reality to the true reality brings awakening to this listener. So killing anger, destroying anger. So this is where the Buddha brings understanding to a higher level. So we have to watch out the nature of the language that Buddha is using. if the Buddha says impermanence, suffering, all this thing, yeah, maybe he's talking directly into the truth. This is where we must be careful not to mix the symbols with reality. This is my understanding. That is why, when, for example, we worship all the different Buddhas, people ask, do they exist? And this is not an easy question to answer. I can tell you, most Buddhists will say Amitabha really exists, like you and I exist. But that's going to create a lot of problems if you answer like that. On the other hand, if you say, all right, compassion, wisdom, it exists in those forms, it is easier to understand. But then it's not something the common people on the street who want to hear. Because when they bow before an image, they want to feel that this image is real. And I can tell you there are many Buddhists, especially in ancient China, maybe in China today, they actually believe the Buddha is present in the statue and they're able to answer all the prayers. So it's not different God believing in a God idea, actually. So this is the real religion that actually cuts across all religion. On the lower levels, is people believe what they want. So it's the task of those in the higher arm, whether they're honest or not, to tell these people the truth. And telling the truth is never something people like, especially when they want to control power, money, wealth, things like that. So it's a choice you have to make if you're a teacher. You want to tell them the truth or you tell them what they want to hear. You have to be successful, so you tell them what they want to hear. You want to be a good teacher, you tell the truth, and of course you suffer the consequences. But the Buddha, that is why you need the strength of the Buddha to tell the truth. It's not something easy. So the first thing is someone will tell you, who are you to tell me the truth? You don't look great enough to do that. The point is, telling the truth is fun, telling the truth is joyful, that's good enough. Well, you don't have to tell the truth to others if you feel you are not ready. You can study and be happy yourself. You ask why you're happy, that's the time to tell the truth. So we share the Dharma through our joys and happiness, not through our desire to conquer others and so on, to show our power. That is evangelism, that is politics. Right? So the life of the Buddha is this kind of stories to tell us how we ourselves can get out of suffering. Right? So you have the historical aspect of the Buddha, and you have the stories about him which point to a higher level, okay, to a meaningful Dharma level. So we're going to investigate all of this. Right, so now let's look a little further. What is the tool we use when we perceive things? We use language. I'm talking to you now. And imagine, you all come here every other Sunday more or less, and you love the suttas. I love teaching these suttas. And I'm sure you do feel a kind of amazement at some of these things that are taught here. But it is not something from me. I'm amazed at the suttas myself. Imagine this language, this flow of sounds can bring us this kind of understanding. That itself is amazing. At the same time, these very sounds can confuse us. We can every week feed our mind with ideas that a certain imaginative being exists. And if we say some funny sounds, this imaginative being, something good can happen to us. We can even believe in that. Whether this happens or not is another matter. So, what I'm saying here is, you've got to ask yourself, what are we doing to ourselves if we are religious? Are we simply conditioning ourselves? Or are we deconditioning ourselves? It's very important to us. Now, I'm giving a very simple, crude example. Okay, if you're upstairs chanting all the time, and all you do is just listen to the talks without discussion, then you're conditioning yourself so that you have more faith, become a good member here, which is fine. On the other hand, if you want to be truly happy, awakened, then you've got to, in a sense, think for yourself, and more important than that, to unthink for yourself. Because you meditate, you've got to stop thinking. You've got to just be happy. Because happiness is not a thought, happiness is a feeling. And then when you're just happy, you're wise, you have to share that feeling. Because if you're happy alone, you won't last very long. You've got to share the feeling also. So this idea of deconditioning means to free yourself from the ideas that make us small. We think only in terms of our country, or for that matter, very soon our world, when there are other planets, aliens, and then our world, our country, our kampong, our house, our temple, we've got to think bigger. Or at least we have to accept others also. Okay? So in that way, we have unconditional acceptance of others, loving kindness. So this is how we perceive the world, whether narrowly or broadly. So it makes us great or small. It makes us good or selfish, and so on. And we use language to understand all those words. So this is where how we say things, we need to understand in terms of perception also. Because very often, words don't make sense. For example, I just came up with this very interesting example last week. In fact, this has been going on a long time, and we're using this idea in editing. For example, an editor may tell his assistant, he says, make sure there are no widows and orphans in your works. You know what that means? The editor doesn't mean kill widows and orphans. You see, in editorial work, in editing work, you know what's meant by widows and orphans? These are straggling, these are what I call dangling lines, For example, let's say you have a nice passage, and the next page, one line, just one line floating on the top of the page. So to the editor, it looks ugly. So it appears at the top of the page is called a widow. It appears at the bottom of the page is called orphan. So the editor says, no widows and orphans. Of course, this is according to the Chicago Manual of Style. If you go to other universities, they probably will reverse the definition anyway, so they don't agree which is the widow, which is the orphan. So that's another problem. So my point here is, language also can be limited. For example, here, you know what is sanya. I say sanya, you understand. But you go on the street, nobody will know. It's unlikely. So, in a sense, we have to build up this kind of vocabulary. Yet, the very same words, even when we understand the meaning, it can be used in different ways. So, we've got to understand what a person is saying. Then again, even if someone tells you the words that are so clear in meaning, and the person seems to actually mean what he says, again, we could examine the circumstances the person says it. Maybe the person is forced to say it. Maybe the person is made to say it under threat of some terrible loss. Or for that matter, the person could be forgetful, absent-minded, or confused at that time. So that is why we cannot take anyone on the word level all the time. We have to examine it for ourselves. This is the condition that I understand when I teach Dharma, that I'm not giving you a teaching from my own knowledge, but I'm trying my best to convey to you what I've understood of the Buddha's teaching. Now this is not that simple, People like to say, all I'm giving you is what the Buddha said in the suttas. Which is fine, which is better than simply teaching what you say and claiming you yourself to be the Buddha. But what I'm saying, there's always a limit to the way we can transmit the news of the Buddha, the teaching which Buddha gave. That is only one part of the act. I give you the teaching, the next part is you have to examine yourself. Say, oh, okay, I think this is what he means. Right? I may say something. Number one, you've got to really understand what I mean. And how I say it, that's the other thing we often forget. In the suttas, we often know what the Buddha said. Right? The Buddha said, don't do this, don't do that. And sometimes there are stories when we say the Buddha is angry, he scolds the monk. But we do not know how the Buddha says it. How did the Buddha reprimand the monk? I'm sure he didn't glare at the monk, like some frightening Tibetan demon, or those Vajra beings. He probably just kind of told the monk, don't do this. But he has to show seriousness. He can't be smiling and say, don't do this, So you got to imagine, how did he say it? And it's not something easy, especially we're all cultural now, right? For example, there was a man in the bus today, he was shouting his head off, answering the phone, the whole bus was rocking actually. So you imagine, he's not aware of people around him, he just can't be bothered. So sometimes certain cultures, you tell them nicely, nothing happens, you have to shout. And it's terrible to do that, they're not used to it. So these are ways yes, you have to adjust yourself, but if you get caught up in this kind of environment and you feel you're not happy, you're going to go crazy. You're going to have schizophrenia. You know? You've got to act in a way which is not you, so to speak. So you've got to get out of the environment. Or you have to change the environment. So in other words, you've got to understand the nature of language. You know? When someone says something, how is this person saying it? So if you're a counselor especially, you look at this person, you see the body language and so on. And sometimes even things people don't say, by their silence, they can also convey something. So your perception must be sharp in this case. You're able to see below the surface, beyond the surface. You know? So this is where our way of talking also is very important. Very often we like to say very summary statements like A is bad, or A is good for that matter, or I hate A, or I like B, and so on. This is where some linguists and thinkers actually say if you use this is, to be very careful, you know. For example, if you say A is bad, and worse, you say why? Because I don't like A, that's why it's bad. And you know very well something is wrong. This is what they call argument from person, you know, argumentum ad hominem. In other words, it's a personal view. But grammatically, spiritually, it's not good language either. And because of this, a group of people, some decades ago, they introduced something called E-prime language. E-prime language means we try to avoid using is and the verbs to be when you talk about people. For example, if you say A is bad, A is good, A is rich, A is poor, is, are, was, were, you actually are making the wrong statement. Okay, take a simple statement. I am a father. Grammatically correct, but factually not correct. I'm a father only to my children. I'm not a father to you. Simple as that, right? But more important than that, there's no emotional content there. When you say A is bad, then you have a problem there. Because you say, imagine you are A and I say you are bad, how do you feel? In one sentence, I condemn your whole life. You are bad. You see the import there. There's no one in the world like that. Because we are momentary beings, you know. Only moments are good and bad. So if you say you are bad, I'm saying the day you are born to now, all bad. So this linguist is saying, you know, the sentence is wrong. So you got to rephrase this. And this is really fantastically Buddhistic. When you did this act, you are bad. Or this act is bad. Then it's more correct. Actually, this is a very wonderful way of talking, especially to children, you know, young people. Tell them, okay, this is wrong. Right? So this is how we adjust our language, so that people don't misperceive what is momentary as long-term or even eternal. So do reflect on this. Eh? The examples are on page 114. For example, we might say, oh, Devadatta is an evil person. And this is, you know, instead of English, you talk this way. This is wrong speech, actually. By right, we should say, more correctly, Devadatta has done some evil deeds. Okay? Or even more factually correct, you might say, Devadatta seems to have a more strict view of the Vinaya than the Buddha. Right? Something like that. Then number two, this teacher is an Arahat. Oh, this is quite an interesting statement, no? On the other hand, how do you know it's an Arahat? You must be an Arahat yourself, right? Now there are suttas actually which you know, kind of gently warn us to be very careful how we say such things. Because there is this young Brahmin called Subha. He has met the Buddha, is very, very impressed with the Buddha. And then he was on his way home, he meets another Brahmin, Janusoni. So the Brahmin asked him, where have you been? And this young Subha said, well, I went to come to see the Buddha. I said, oh yes, the Buddha is a great teacher. What do you think of his wisdom? Now Subha, being a very intelligent young man, he says, oh, who am I? You know, to say what kind of wisdom the Buddha has. So what Subha means is that I can't really say that, because if I were to say that, then I'm claiming I know better than the Buddha. You know? So, or that I can say perhaps the Buddha is a great teacher. So we're very careful how we evaluate people. Right? So we say, what do we mean when we say A is an arhat, or my teacher is an arhat? Maybe what we mean is this teacher has a demeanor of an arhat. This teacher is saintly, for example. Right? So we have to rephrase such statements. Or we might even say something like, all non-Buddhists are superstitious. Only Buddhists are not superstitious. So if we rephrase it, we might say something like, if you do not understand Buddhism, you tend to be superstitious. So we have to be very careful how we say things, especially in terms of the Dharma. Or you can say Piya is lazy. Or you have to rephrase that Piya has difficulty finishing his work, something like that, right? So this is example how we can prevent misperception through language by looking at the condition and try to reflect clearly the condition we're talking about. So perception is our way of looking at things. You might even say it's our idea of things. Okay? A take on things, if you like. So in the suttas, perception is defined this way, page 115. Look at this Mahavedala Sutta 7.1.0. Perception, it is said also. In what connection also is it called perception? And what does it perceive? It perceives or notes also. It perceives, therefore it's called perception. That doesn't make much sense in English here. That's why you need the Pali. If you look at the Pali 56, sanjanati, ti ko avuso tasma sanyati, uchati. So here the verb is sanjanati. Sanjanati, yes, the prefix san in front, and then the verb janati. Janati simply means to know, and then san is to put together. So if you translate literally, it means to know by putting together, for example. That's called sanya. So this is where it's easier to understand in Pali, but in English, it doesn't make much sense unless you explain the Pali also. So that's why I put the English translation and the Pali in the footnote. So moments like this, you have a living translation. I can explain to you how the etymology works in Pali. Yeah? So, sanya, perception, in other words, there is a way we put ideas together. And what does it perceive? It perceives blue, it perceives yellow, it perceives red, it perceives white. It perceives also, it perceives, therefore it is called perception. Again here, you might say, okay, it perceives a color. It's not very helpful, right? Unless it's a bit of explanation. How do I know it is blue, red, white? That is perception. So, on the other hand, you have consciousness. We often compare consciousness with perception. The verb for to be conscious of is vijanati. Vijanati. Here again, vijanati, to be conscious of, you got the verb janati there. He knows, janati, he knows. And then you have vi as a prefix. It's like an adverb in English, these prefixes. That's their function. So we here, vi, means to break it up, analytical. In a sense, we is analytical, while san, as in sanya, is syntactical. It puts ideas together. Okay? So, where consciousness is concerned, let's say you just got up in the morning, early morning, and you say, okay, am I awake or asleep? First thing you have to ask yourself. And is this a dream or is this real? Am I seeing something? Am I hearing something? So you've got to decide which of your senses is working. That is vijanati. So vijanati is the basic working of your conscious aspects of your life, through the six senses. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. Yeah? So in other words, if you compare to what we just said just now, I am conscious of a color, but I do not know what kind of color. For example, a child may know, oh, the child tells mommy, very nice, very colorful, you know. But the child will not be able to tell you, okay, this is red, this is blue, this is green, you know. So that you need a little bit more attention, a little bit more scrutiny. Now, this kind of perception is amazing. We are talking about a religion 2,500 years ago which could not do such details. Right? So, while consciousness recognizes color, perception recognizes it as blue. Why? Because someone told me before this is blue. Now, you and I here, we are not artists, or maybe some of us are, so we are not so much aware of the different names of colors. You have different shades of blue, different shades of red, and so on. There are so many names for it. And some of these names are very specialized. For example, an Italian painter or his assistant will tell you a long range of names of different colors. He looks at the painting and says, oh, that's not the right tinge, not the right hue. You and I won't know much difference what he means. So in other words, these people who are intelligent, their ability to perceive also becomes more refined. So this means perception can be trained, can be refined. So this is something worth thinking about. Now, how do we refine this sensitivity in terms of perception? Through noting, or more exactly, through attention, through the ability to sustain our consciousness on a point. I think now you begin to understand why meditation is so important. Because meditation, especially the breath meditation, is a training to hold our mind in a certain position for as long as possible. And there's a way of doing this. So the first thing is to keep it there, not to let it run here, run there, because the mind that runs all over the place, a floundering mind, is not an intelligent mind. It will never be able to build solid knowledge, clear knowledge. So attention, or rather wisdom, starts with the ability to attend to a source of knowledge. Anything out there is a source of knowledge. Anything through our six senses is a source of knowledge. So if you fix it there in a proper way, you begin to know things. That's only the first part, right? The second part is, what can you know? So this is where I can say you can only know one thing that is real. You can only know impermanence. In a sense, you might say the whole of quantum physics boils down to this, if you like. That everything is impermanent, and from there all this quantum physics build up their understanding of the universe. Okay, they go one way, they go the measuring way, whereas the Buddha goes the immeasurable way, in meditation, for example. So the ability to note, focus our mind and note something. What do we note? We got to note things as they really are. It's okay to be angry if you're a Buddhist, but it's not okay to encourage it. Anger arises, then you note it. This is anger. Once you note anger, you begin to notice, wow, this is not a very pleasant thing. Wisdom arises. True reality arises. And once you see true reality, you say, no, I don't like this. I'm letting go of this. Right? Liberation. So you begin to see the process of liberation. So, another way of looking at what can we be aware of, we're only aware of the five aggregates, right? Form, feeling, perception, information, consciousness. So here you see on page 116 how we can use our perception. When we look at things, we begin to see everything is conditioned, meaning interdependent. Everything works together, hand in glove. This is from the Madhupindika Sutta. Friends, dependent on the I and forms, I consciousness arises. The meeting of the three is contact. Okay, what does this mean? First, you have functional I, and there is something you can see. And then, when these two are aligned, when I consciousness arises, there is vision. This is a triangle of perception. There is contact. Contact means sense impression, the act of seeing. That's the meaning here. The meaning of the three is contact. What are the three? Eye, form, eye consciousness. Of course, this is a basic diagram. You can apply this to any of the other five senses. Yeah? And then, with contact as condition, there is feeling. In other words, when you experience something like seeing, feeling arises. You see it as pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, and you respond accordingly. What one feels, one perceives, there you are. So when you feel something, you say, I perceive this as nice, I perceive this as not nice, and neutral. What one perceives, one thinks about. So, this is nice, you think about it, right? And when you think about it, what happens? When one thinks of what one thinks about, one mentally proliferates. Thought explosion. Our mind explodes to many thoughts. You start thinking about it. Of course, in some cases, it's not really that troublesome. For example, you read about Buddhism and you say, wow, this is good. You think, I must find a place where I can learn Buddhism. You go to the internet and you say, oh yeah, there's this place. And then you come here and so on. Well, that's fine, you know. But sooner or later, this kind of thinking must be put to rest, so your mind is at peace. But basically, this is how the mind works. Yeah? So reflect on this. This is the essence of teaching, and occasionally spend some time, reflect on this, then the wisdom is inside you. Right now, this is the first level. You have wisdom, something like I'm passing it up to you, teaching you in an academic way, if you like. This is the heard wisdom, received wisdom. It's not yours. It's not even mine, so how can it be yours? Right? So the next thing is you reflect on it, then you become what you have heard, and then you experience it yourself, and then you liberate yourself like that. Yeah? Now perception also is very useful. You can actually use them in meditation. Because we are full of ideas. So why not use ideas to help our meditation? And my favorite perception is the perception of impermanence. It's a perception I like to do, not because of my own inclination, or maybe it is, I do not know, but why I say is because the suttas are so clear on this. The Buddha says if you practice perception of impermanence regularly, you'll be a strong winner in this life itself, if not definitely when you're passing away at the moment. A lot of people say they can't meditate, meditation is difficult, so there's no excuse when you talk about impermanence, because it's all around us. All we need to do is keep that mind, that perception of impermanence. Whatever happens, always tell yourself, this is impermanent, and you won't be wrong. When good things happen to you, this is impermanent, so you're not overly jubilant and drunk with it. You say, well, yeah, okay, I won 10 million, so what, you know? 10 million, that's not much in Singapore. And very soon people who are not relatives start coming to me saying they're relatives. And I have no peace, and things like that. Yeah? So you reflect impermanence, you know? If you lose all that 10 million, you say, well, yeah, that's the way things are, you know? I've used them well, I'm very happy. And so even in times of loss, it's impermanent, you're not troubled. And if you don't get anything, you just say, well, that's the way it is, I'm happy the way I am right now, you know, and you're happy too, right? So, and even this, what appears to be a neutral kind of state now is also impermanent. You will be wrong. So if you go on reflecting in this way, what you're doing is you habitually tell your mind, see things, all you're seeing right now is these passing moments. It's like you're watching, you know, those old cinema where they use those long strips of movies before the digital pictures came to a screen. These pictures move one screen at a time, and it moves so fast. I don't know about how many frames a second, 30 frames maybe. Fast enough so that our eyes do not see the separation. The impression we get, the perception is that there is something moving on the screen, but there's nothing moving there. All you're watching is one screen at a time, which gives us the perception there is movement on the screen. And our mind does all the things, we start crying and laughing, and my mother will scold the bad guys on screen. So it's so real to us, right? But it's a movie, it's not real. So this is where you can reflect as something moving yet not moving on the screen. Even on the TV also. The TV are mix of pixels, tiny little dots, right? RGB, and now there are more colors in between. But you look carefully, you get this big magnifying glass, you find the dots of colors there. This also is very Buddhistic because according to Buddhist psychology, our thoughts are just thoughts. They are moments of thought, one after the other, very fast. Discrete moments of thoughts. That, in other words, they're all impermanent, moving all the time. And our class is also very impermanent, it's going to end in a while. So we can use these ideas for meditation, especially when we relate all these perceptions to impermanence. Then you have these dreadful 10 fetters, things which hold us down in this world of suffering. How can we use perception to deal with them? It's on page 118. Now, diagram 7, table 7.2, this gives you a kind of summary on the 10 fetters that cause us to be stuck in samsara and to suffer. And these 10 fetters are connected with our 6 senses and their sense objects. So you've got eye and forms, ear and sounds, nose and smells, tongue and taste, body and touches, mind objects. This is the stage of our so-called suffering, the 6 actors or 12 actors of your life. And the mental factors, there are 10. In other words, all these factors, they arise, or rather, what do they factor? They factor our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind, form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and mind objects. Factor is like a prisoner's ball and chain. They hold us in this suffering world. Why or how? Number one, through self-identity view. Self-identity view is the belief that this body is permanent, or there is something permanent, eternal about this body. Number two, clinging to vows and rituals. In a simple term, this would be superstition. Believing that the answer is found outside of us. The answer to our suffering is found outside of us. That's a simple meaning. Because, why is this false? Because our problems begin within us, the way we think, the way we act, and so on. So the solution also must come from within. Number three, doubt. That means we feel that we can't solve our own problems. Or worse, some other religions tell us, you are helpless, you are evil, you are a sinner. But don't worry, I can help you. But in Buddhism, we don't better people that way. In fact, we say, we have the good news. Actually, you are all right, you know. It's just that I don't know how things got messed up. Some people have been telling the wrong things. But you must begin by looking at yourself that you can be a good person. Don't doubt yourself. Right? Next, sense desires. This is where again we look through our 5 or 6 senses and we try to satisfy them by obtaining more and more objects. And thinking in terms of desire and hate and so on. And the opposite of that is aversion, dislike. 4 and 5 will go together, they are twins. And on a higher level, especially for meditators, you have 6 and 7. 6 is craving for form existence. These are the meditators who attain high level meditation, the form jhanas. And then number 7 is the formless jhanas. So, wow, this is great levels of meditation. I want to be reborn there and so on. Even this kind of desire you can be reborn there, but the problem is you're still stuck in samsara. You're going round and round playing snakes and ladders. You know? And then number 8 is conceit. Conceit is the measuring of people, right? In other words, I look at you and say, oh, how much are you worth? How many room flat you live in? 5-room flat, condo, oh great, I'll be your friend then. Otherwise, I'm not worth talking to you, right? So we measure people. Right? In other words, this is an asura attitude. Right? You're only nice to people because you want them to do things for you. Restlessness is this idea of uneasiness. This can be good, it can be bad. It's negative when it distracts you from your happiness. On the other hand, if you're truly a good person, you can also have restlessness. That is why this restlessness can only be got rid of on a very high level, by the arahant. Because even apparently a non-eternal can have a bit of restlessness. For example, you can say, oh, why don't the people practice the Dharma and overcome their suffering? So it's a kind of an aspect of compassion, actually. If you're a Buddhist, you're compassionate, and you see people out there suffering, you say, why can't they just be happy, right? So you have this restlessness. Notice number 9, it's kind of very subtle. Then number 10 is ignorance. This is the mother lode, if you like. This is the key, the root of our suffering. Actually, there are 2 roots of suffering, ignorance and craving. And ignorance is said to be blind, craving said to be lame. So you got the lame man and the blind man. So ignorance by itself cannot do anything, and craving by itself also cannot do anything. So craving hops onto the back of ignorance, and ignorance is able to walk. Okay? So craving will tell ignorance, go here, go there, so they move around together as a twin, right? Okay, what's the difference between craving and ignorance? Ignorance comes from the distant past, right from endless time up to today. It has conditioned us up to right now. From now until the future, it is craving that pushes us on. So this is how the 2 are related. Ignorance, past to present. Craving, present to future. Okay? So just reflect on that. Yeah? So, you have the 6 senses on the first column, and then you have 10 fetters on the second column. So how do we deal with them? Using perception. Look at the little boxes on the right hand side. If fetter arises, know the conditions that lead to arising. For example, it's a simple thing like hatred arises or desire arises. Ask yourself, what are the conditions? Or we like to say, what caused all this? Better than saying what caused all this is, what conditions brought this about? Remember, there's never one condition. For example, when we don't like someone, we can ask, why don't I like this person? That's another way of asking. So in other words, you're asking, what are the conditions that make me not like this person? And you just reflect. Sometimes you don't try to answer it, because you try to answer it, you'll be very biased. Just leave it like that, and then the answer will come to you. So this is the first part. Number 2, if the factor is present, know the conditions that lead to the removal. So this is when you feel anger arising. Wow, this is anger. So first thing is to acknowledge it. Number 2, how to remove this? You have many ways. For example, loving kindness, or simply recognizing the anger itself weakens the anger. Number 3, if the factor is removed, know that the conditions that prevent future arising. How do I prevent this hatred or anger from arising in the future? Think happy thoughts, or learn to look at the good sides of people, something like that. So these are 3 ways to reflect on. Yeah? So you have 2 stages. One is the stage of the mental factors, the other is how to deal with them. So this is where you look at the situation as it is, perceive it as it is. And this is where you find the Buddha's teaching keeps reminding us how to do this. Right? And here you have a set of 4 suttas with the same names. T Nidana Sutta, 1, 2, 3. T means 3, Nidana means causes, if you like. So the first sutta talks about how greed, hate, delusion lead to karma. The next sutta, the absence of these 3 roots does not lead to karma. And then it goes a bit deeper. Sutta 3, how thinking and pondering over desirable things of the past, present, future keeps one fettered to desire. And Sutta 4, how not thinking and pondering over desirable things of past, present, future do not generate the fetter of desire. In other words, clear our minds of negative thought. So these 3 Greed, hate, delusion, they are the roots which you have to carry on. Now, in the next lesson, we'll talk a bit more about latent tendency. I think this morning we'll talk quite a lot, so let us just hold on to this for a while. In fact, the 10 latent tendencies are very similar to the 10 fetters. It's just that latent tendencies lie deeper within us. And we might not even know they are present. In a sense, they are repressed states, if you like. Any questions to us? Yeah?
Just now you said what ignorance trespass to what? And
I was talking about the connection between ignorance and craving.
right.
So these two are the root causes of suffering.
Yeah.
Ignorance is rooted in our past and works right up to the present, molding us. Okay? Or another, ignorance is rooted in the past, influencing us right to the present moment. Craving arises in the present moment, molding our future, influencing our future. So in other words, in terms of time, past to present, ignorance, present to future, craving. That's how the process of suffering works. Yeah? Any other question?
Yeah. Just now when you talked about the sutta, the Madhu Pidika Sutra,
Yes.
what one perceives, one thinks about, what one thinks about, one mentally proliferates. Is that Sankhara?
What page again?
Page 116.
Okay, Madhu Pidika Sutta 116.
So what one perceives, one thinks about. What one thinks about, one mentally proliferates. Is that Sankhara? Mentally proliferates?
We create, to the extent we create ideas, yes. We form ideas, Sankhara, yes.
Is that Sankhara?
Yes, through body, speech and mind. Because Sankhara is a broader term here in the sense of we act it out through body, speech and mind. So here it's only the mental aspect.
One form of Sankhara.
So it is what we call Chitta Sankhara, more mental.
Yeah, so it's mental Sankhara.
Yes. You see, the thing about this is we not only think, because we think, we also act. We thought and act. Yeah?
Yes.
So Sankhara there are 3 kinds.
Yes.
Any other question?
Yeah, there's one very common behavioral tendency among everybody, almost people. People go to churches, people go to temple, they listen to all the teaching, then they go to the moment they walk out of the door, they forget everything.
Yes.
I'm just trying to ask you, maybe is there some study of the brain that sort of, that prevents people from connecting from one to the other? Because it's very common.
True. Yeah, there's a special term for that in psychology. It's called the defense mechanism of isolation. Isolation, or ego isolation. Yeah. In other words, their life is compartmentalized. Monday to Saturday, I'm a businessman. I make as much money as I can. Sunday, I go to temple and holy places. Then I'm a holy man. I won't cheat people on that day. So it's their own rationalization. Right? They feel that, okay, 6 days do evil things, 7 days purify myself. Okay. Of course, it doesn't work that way in Buddhist teachings. These are how people defend something they see as negative in them. It is a kind of excuse, not helpful, unfortunately. So there is a certain fear repressed in them. Maybe when they are young, either their parents, their teachers, or their peers, or their religious teachers have been telling them, if you don't make money, nobody will respect you, you've got to go all your way to make as much money as you can, things like that. So the idea is they will do just that, but they find that in doing so, you have to be dishonest, things like that, and yet there's something good in them. So there is this conflict, this duality. We often struggle in this kind of duality. So 6 days they work hard, 7 days they practice something they really want to be true to their life. So if they do not have the wisdom aspect, then they go into this ego defense. They have to rationalize. But once they begin to understand the nature of life such that you cannot separate these things, it's schizophrenic, in a mild sense of the word or even serious sense, then they begin to realize, oh yeah, why do I think like this? Why do I feel like this? Well, in the past, this is what I was taught and so on. And then they begin to reflect, how much money do I really need to live? How do I really be happy? The difference between having and being and so on. So once they begin to see the bigger picture, then they find that they can still make money, and yet they do not have to be dishonest. So this is where wisdom comes in. It makes them understand themselves better. Basically, it's an idea about meaning and purpose in life, happiness and meaning. Because happiness alone is like you must have a meaning in life also. Then life is more fulfilled.
I speak from the experience of mixing with people in this temple. A lot of people here are quite learned, meaning they know a lot about Buddhism. They know about this, they know about that. They're very learned like that sense. But I find that when it comes to simple things like mindfulness, when they go out of the door, they don't get it anymore. So there's a disconnect between what they know and how they act.
Correct.
Very big disconnect.
Yes. Yeah, that's also can be called isolation, where what we learn and what we do not connect. So that is why the Buddha says that, yathavadi tathakari, tathavadi yathakari. What I say, I do. What I do, I say. So he says, he's speaking against emotional dissonance. You can call it a lot of things. I think maybe I should call this emotional dissonance. In other words, they don't really feel what they know and what they should do. The connection is gone. But this is better than not knowing anything. Because so maybe one day they'll say, yeah, we're going to do this. That is why, as I said, what are the teachers doing to us? All these great teachers that talk to us, are they here simply to say nice things to us so that they get great donations and support and serve part of this world system of tributaries to them? Or are they here to be honest with you and tell you, look, you are spiritually dissonant. You should connect. You should really connect with yourselves and be truly happy. If a teacher can tell you that, it's really wonderful. And I don't think it's easy for a teacher to tell a crowd such a thing. So this is where a small group like this, you can talk more honestly, especially when you know each other, there is spiritual friendship. So you need the spiritual friendship aspect. But basically, like I said, it takes a lot of courage in a spiritual teacher to tell you this thing. If you can meet someone like that, it's really great. But I think the best teacher is yourself. You should be able to, number one, recognize this and tell yourself this is wrong. And at the right time, tell the people, go on telling them. And you find one day they'll say, yeah, you're actually right. And once you tell them, it becomes something people can do. It becomes a culture. The real meaning of culture means to develop, to practice and change accordingly. Somebody got to make the start, and one thing leads to another. So, and I think in this case you can do that. If someone is courageous enough to stand up and say, it's possible. Of course, if you have too many dissonant activities, then you have another problem. So many groups, like Tibetan and Thai and whatever, and each of them are independent and so on, then it's difficult also. But I think as long as you have a group that is able to be an example, it's a good start. This is a challenge we all have. Sooner or later it comes to us. Otherwise, after a while, we feel all they were coming to is just a building and doing activities and then we go home. But I tell you, we can do wonderful things, life-changing things with a building like this. It's possible. Not just activities, but life-changing processes. Buddhism is going through a very great growth. But at the same time, we are not visionary enough in terms of spirituality. We are more worried about what happened in Rome and the popes and so on than what we are really doing to ourselves here. So we are still influenced by dominant culture. We can learn from dominant culture, definitely. And we can ask ourselves, okay, how do we come out of this feudalism that's still stubborn Buddhism? Buddhism is still a feudalistic religion today. People are very superstitious towards all these ideas of religiosity. We still believe in relics and believe that images can help us, for example. We believe in measurement of goodness and prayers. This was what the Western Church, the Christian Church, already done away with centuries ago. I think we need to study the history of religions and study the history of Anglicanism, for example. The history of the Roman Church. You find, wow, they went through this fantastic struggle to free themselves from superstition and power politics and all these terrible ways of the old popes, you know. What I'm amazed that people today still believe in this kind of religion. I think it's the power structure that they are looking up to. But for Buddhism, we can change if we want to. It's just that I think the freedom comes at a cost. We are so free, we can do anything we like. Loudest voice is heard most, and then we don't really work together. If we have a lot of intelligent people, we can work together in Singapore. Start a training center, an open training center, not belonging to any temple, any group, and teach the Dharma as it is, and produce good teachers, lay teachers, monk teachers, and these teachers are supported. And it helps a lot, you know. Right now, I think I'm the only full-time teacher supported publicly. Others somehow they have some kind of job. And I tell you, I don't have any other job. So I'm an experiment of the future. And if I survive right to the end, I think it's hope for future lay people so they can work together, they can have families, like a village pastor, you know. And we practice full-time, we study just full-time. And it's really fun because we can also be examples to others. So these are some things we need to think about. Okay?
Sometimes people always tend to think of doing very grand things, but they forget the very, very simple thing. I'll give you an example. 2 years ago, Piya Tan was here on a visit, the American man. So we had a small group, we were talking. The one young lady asked her, how can I be a better Buddhist? So reply. So then the Venerable asked for views. So I contributed a view. I told the young lady, when you go out of this door, just be mindful. Mindful in what you do. For example, when you're at the bus stop, you see somebody older than you, lady or man, give way, let him go out first. You know, very simple things. And then when you go into the lift door, don't press the close button straight away. Wait, you see whether other people are coming in. I mean, these are daily applications of simple things here. But a lot of people just forget the simple things.
Another way is to go to a place where these things are already there. I've been in Thailand for 5 years, and it's really amazing. You know, if you live in a monastery or you meet you find this culture is there. So like I said, we are still young as a country, so we've got to start building on this up, and it can happen. Okay, well, it's great that we do talk about this. It means that we want to change, we want to be better. So it's a matter of, you know, sharing our ideas, getting small group people who really can do it, and start doing it. Okay, on that note, we'll end for today, and then we'll meet again to finish our study. Let us do a short reflection. Today, we have reflected on perception again, especially in terms of how our lives can be better by understanding how our minds work, how to deal with negative emotions, how to cultivate positive emotions through proper perception of all these things. And most prominent of all is the perception of impermanence. Seeing and understanding that everything in this world, within ourselves and outside of ourselves, are all a process. When we reflect in this way, we see true reality bit by bit, and we are more at peace with ourselves. To reflect in this way is good mental karma. With the power of such karma, may our minds quickly focus, even here and now, may we be at peace with ourselves. And most importantly, may in this life itself we attain spiritual liberation, namely stream winning. like this peaceful moment, let us send out our thoughts of loving kindness to all the people here, especially those who are working very hard to propagate the Dharma. To all the beings here, may they all be well and happy. And to all our teachers, that they may work hard to attain spiritual awakening in this life itself. And let us send our loving kindness to all those people important to us in any way. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu.